part of the Press Play Podcast Network.
And welcome to another edition of the Red Guy and Rhoda podcast, powered by MGM Northfield Park. Northfield Park, your home for live and simulcast racing. Catch the excitement of live harness racing at Northfield Park. However, pass along this note to you. Beginning August 16th, the track will be closed for live racing from August 16th through the 26th. Live racing is scheduled to return Saturday, August 27th. But full card simulcast racing will continue each day starting at noon. And I'm flying solo today here on the Red Guy and Rhoda podcast. Michael Red Guy on vacation. So you've got yours truly on the Press Play Podcast Network, but being produced by outstanding producer Jordan Powell, who makes sure everything sounds great for all of you out there listening in the podcastosphere. And right out of the gate, I just want to get into some Brown stuff. I was lucky enough today to get out to Browns training camp in Berea. We're taping this on Tuesday, August 16th. So my partner from WHBC Radio, JT, the Kenny and JT show, Monday through Friday from 3 to 7. You can listen to it at WHBC.com. Anywhere you can get the radio app or whatever that thing is, your smart speaker, ask her or him or whoever it is to play it for you. You can tune in. And we were lucky enough to get out there today to watch practice after Friday's first exhibition game, a 24-13 win over the Jaguars. The scores in preseason games, exhibition games, don't mean a doodly squat. What matters is how certain players look. Did they get the work in? Was there somebody who shined from the rookie class? And so let me I guess tackle all of that here first and foremost. Deshaun Watson did play in the game. Still, as of the taping of this podcast, no result, no decision from the appeal by the NFL of his 6-game suspension, no resolution, no settlement has been reached yet. Being out at camp today, talking with a number of people, the fact that this is still undecided makes some people think that they're trying to work on a settlement. That would be great. Figure that out sooner rather than later. We'll have to wait and see if that's the case. But Watson did play on Friday night, and let's be honest, he stunk. He was terrible. 1 of 5 for 7 yards, 0 points, 3 series, 8 plays. Now, it was his first time on the football field in live action since January 3rd of 2021. And if you saw any of the videos online from the Jacksonville Jaguar fans and you heard some of the chants and things that were being said to Deshaun Watson, it was not an easy night for him, obviously. The one video that I saw, I think it has over 1 million views from the Jacksonville fans that were sitting in the end zone behind where the Browns had the ball, I think, in their first series. You sick blank is what they were chanting repeatedly to Deshaun Watson. Now, he's got nobody to blame but himself. He brought this on himself, right? Not found guilty, no criminal charges, but settled 23 of 24 civil suits, was accepting of Sue Robinson's 6-game suspension. In some people's minds, that's admitting guilt, right? Settling the cases. Not appealing the 6 games that were handed down to him, even though he felt he didn't do anything wrong, he initially said, right? But he did come out before the game on Friday and apologized, showed some remorse, whether you believed it or not, for the first time. And had he done this, in my opinion, when he held his first press conference in Cleveland, this would have been resolved already. I came away from that first press conference, I guess, what's the best way to say it? Shocked that he would come out and downplay it, say he did nothing wrong. Basically said, I'm not guilty of anything, showed no remorse. And I think that's why this thing has lingered as long as it has. Maybe, and again, I don't know what happened behind the scenes. maybe his lawyers told him to be remorseful and say other things, and he wanted to fight it because he didn't think he did anything wrong, and that's why it went on. Maybe his lawyers didn't give him that advice, and he got bad advice by not saying anything. Don't know why, but he finally apologized before the game, went out, took his medicine, obviously on the field and off the field during the game, and he was back at practice today, threw a touchdown pass in 11 on 11 drills. Saw that. He may play on Sunday. Who knows against the Eagles if this thing hasn't been resolved yet. The Eagles and Browns will practice Thursday and Friday. And according to head coach Kevin Stefanski, that's where the starters will get most of the work, if not all their work this weekend, as they will go head-to-head with the Eagles in practice. And a lot of those guys won't play on Sunday, but maybe Deshaun Watson will if he is still cleared to play. If he is suspended indefinitely, his season is over and done with. He cannot play on Sunday. If he's not suspended at all at that point, if they're still trying to resolve the case, or if they had have come up with a settlement, resolved it, and there's a X amount of game suspension, he can still play in the preseason games up until the regular season starts. Then he is done and has to serve his suspension. So it's a continuing saga of disappointment, uncertainty, and frustration involving Deshaun Watson. So hopefully sometime soon this will be resolved and we'll be able to move forward on Deshaun Watson playing 4, 6, 8 games this season, Deshaun Watson not playing at all. And if that's the case, does the Jacoby Brissett become your starter for the entire year? Or if you're not sold on Jacoby, do you try and trade for Jimmy Garoppolo? So a lot of things hinging on what happens with Deshaun Watson's suspension. Now we got that out of the way with Deshaun Watson. Let me go as to what I saw. And I was without internet access on Friday night, so I didn't catch the entire game. But I was able to go back and watch some of the highlights, some of the drives, and everything like that. Second play of the game, we're all focusing on Deshaun Watson. What happened? Starting center Nick Harris hurt his knee. Could be out for the season. This was a kid that was supposed to replace J.C. Tretter as the starting center for whoever is at quarterback, right? No official word yet if he is lost for the season. The Browns would not confirm that today at training camp that I went to, but it's a lengthy injury, if not the entire season. So that's how the game started, along with the Deshaun Watson stuff. That means Ethan Posick, as of now, is the starting center for the Cleveland Browns. They brought him in as a free agent this offseason. He has NFL starting experience. That's good news. J.C. Tretter, last year's starting center, still available as an unrestricted free agent. He is the president of the Players Association, though. And there are some players on the current Browns team that believe the reason he's still an unrestricted free agent, not so much his inability to play, but maybe because he has spoken up in defense of the players and their safety, and the owners aren't real happy with that. I talked to a couple of people that felt that way. I talked to a couple of people today who felt, well, his play did decline during the end of the season last year, but we'll see. And the Browns lost a 7th-round pick. I forget his name. My bad on that, people. But I just, we were talking about this today. Torn ACL, and he was the 3rd or 4th string center. So they're down to 2 centers. So J.C. Tretter, to me, it just makes sense, even if he's a backup, to go get a guy that was in your offense for the last few years. So that happened on the second play of the game. Who stood out? It was 13-0 Jags after the end of the first quarter, and Deshaun Watson was done for the night. David Bell, wide receiver, didn't play, but he was at practice today. And by the way, he caught a touchdown pass in 11 on 11 drills at training camp today. So good to see that, but he didn't play Friday. After the 13-0 start by the Jags, and remember, this was their second game, Browns' first game, right? Jags played in the Hall of Fame game. Browns rookies played well. Martin Emerson, pick 6, takes it to the house, 75 yards. Going to not only make the team as a 3rd-round pick, but this guy's going to play for the Browns this year. Jerome Ford, a running back, 5th-round pick, 2 touchdowns, 1 rushing, 1 receiving. 10 rushes, 57 yards in that score, 4 catches, 45 yards and a touchdown. Now, he did fumble once, but still a good debut for the rookie, 5th-round pick Jerome Ford. Cade York, nice job, you effing kicker. Well, yeah, this time it was a nice job. He was true on his 3 extra points, 1 for 1 in field goals, 31 yards in the game Friday night at Jacksonville. And oh yeah, by the way, today he put on a clinic at training camp, booming one from 56 yards with at least 10, maybe 15 yards to spare. This kid's leg is ginormous. He's going to be a nice weapon for the Browns to have. And 7th-round pick Isaiah Thomas, 2 sacks, 3 tackles for a loss in that game against the Jags on Sunday. So those were the guys that stood out as far as I'm concerned, watching the young guys, the rookies, guys that did not play. Jacoby Brissett, no action Friday. Myles Garrett did not play. Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt, Amari Cooper, Jadeveon Clowney, Joel Bitonio, Conklin still recovering from offseason surgery. Denzel Ward did not play. Good news, though, on Denzel Ward, people. He's been activated from the PUP list, was at practice today, and I did talk to Denzel about the bet he has with Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah for the September 3rd Ohio State-Notre Dame opening game of the season. Those two, of course, will be going at each other. Reportedly, losers got to do 1,000 push-ups on whoever loses that Ohio State-Notre Dame game. Now, whether or not that's the actual bet or that was just them running their mouths today, both JOK and Denzel, they were having fun with it, but good to see Denzel Ward back at practice today, doing a little bit, not a lot, but a little. Greg Newsome did not play. Anthony Walker did not play. So a lot of guys did not play. A lot of those guys who did not play will participate in practices this week against the Eagles Thursday and Friday. We're taping this on a Tuesday night. Browns are off on Wednesday. They'll go head-to-head with the Eagles Thursday and Friday in practices. And then they'll play the Eagles on Sunday. But everybody we've talked to said practices are more important than the game. Starters or veterans will play in practice, not in the game. So if you've got tickets on Sunday, 1:00, First Energy Stadium, I think it's still called that. All the other stadiums in the division are getting new names, but you're not going to see a lot of the starters, if any, on Sunday. And today was the last day, by the way, for fans out at training camp. And kudos to the Browns players knowing that they stayed after and signed autographs for the fans all over the place today. So that was nice to see. Their finale in the preseason, August 27th against the Bears. And according to Kevin Stefanski, the starters will play in that game because that's the dress rehearsal. So that's the 3rd and final preseason game. That's the one where we'll get a taste probably of a quarter with the starters in there. And maybe by then, maybe by August 27th, we'll know what the suspension is for Deshaun Watson and whether or not he will play any games for the Browns this year or not. And if not, Jacoby Brissett then, all first-team reps, be out there with the first-team offense, and we'll see if the Browns go and acquire another backup and go with Brissett the entire year, or if they're not happy with Brissett, maybe look into that Garoppolo trade. Now, a couple of cut-down days to tell you about. August 23rd, I believe that's a Tuesday. Yep, that's a week from today. We're taping this on a Tuesday. Tuesday, August 23rd, Browns must cut down from 85 to 80 players. The following Tuesday, August 30th, from 80 to 53 players. That's the big cut down right there. Waivers throughout the NFL will open up on August 31st at 12 p.m. Thank you, Daryl Ryder, who we had on the Kenny and JT show. Outstanding Browns beat reporter for 92.3 The Fan, gave me all these dates and times. He said, don't be surprised if the Browns maybe are waiting to get help at the wide receiver position, the defensive tackle position, after teams cut their rosters down, just like the Browns are going to cut their roster down. And the Browns' deepest position, we discussed this today at training camp, is the secondary, corners and safeties. And there are going to be a lot of teams waiting to see who the Browns cut, if anybody, from their secondary, because there's some quality to play there and some depth there. So the Browns will be active, we think, on August 31st, depending on any injuries between now and then. Could be a center as well that they look at to see who gets cut, as well as other players. So those are the dates to keep in mind. Tuesday, August 23rd, roster goes from 85 to 80. Tuesday, August 30th, the roster goes from 80 to 53. And then on August 31st at noon, you can start scouring the waiver wire and maybe go after some guys. So that's where the Browns are at this point, getting ready for the 2022 season. A lot of talk about how everyone is excited about Joe Woods' defense this year. A lot of speed out there. They're expecting a big year out of JOK, Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah. In talking with the radio voice of the Browns, Jimmy Donovan, today on the Kenny and JT show on WHBC, Jimmy said he had a nice sit down with JOK, and JOK said, and Jimmy mentioned something to him about his speed and how great his speed is. And JOK said, it worked against me last year. I overran plays. I was too excited. I was going too fast. And it's going to help me what I learned last year. This year, I'm going to have a better year, still using my speed, but know when to turn it down a notch or two, or chop, 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 slow it down. So JOK, big things expected out of him. Greg Newsome, Denzel Ward in the secondary, as well as Phillips at linebacker, Jadeveon Clowney and Myles Garrett, the bookends. So defensively, Browns are expecting big things. Offensively, it'll depend on who's at quarterback. The one thing we do know that will be a positive factor for the Browns on offense is the running game with Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt for now, if they don't trade him, Dearness Johnson, Demetric Felton, and the rookie Ford, who had a nice game against the Jaguars. If the Browns' offensive line can stay healthy, and that's a big if, you got Conklin coming off surgery. Who's going to be the center now with Harris out there? And can Jed Wills stay healthy and improve his game? But if they can, it's a solid offensive line led by the two guards, Wyatt Teller and Joel Bitonio. Run the ball, play action off that if it's Brissett at quarterback, and hope that your wide receiver room steps up. That's another big question mark, because other than Amari Cooper, I'm not sold on it. I think the second best receiver might be the rookie David Bell coming off the foot injury. So that's where we're at with the Cleveland Browns as far as training camp up to this point. Hopefully we find out soon what's up with Deshaun Watson, and then we'll be able to make better comments, predictions, opinions on how the Browns season could go this year. And Michael will be back hopefully by then, and we'll be able to break it down for you that way. All right, let's do this. Let's get a break in right now here on the Red Guy and Rhoda podcast. The Roadman flying solo today here on the Press Play Podcast Network. And of course, this is all brought to you by MGM Northfield Park. When we come back, we got to give some love. It's August 16th. And as the taping of this podcast is ongoing, your Cleveland Guardians are in first place by 2 games over the Twins and the White Sox. I never expected this. We'll talk some Guardians baseball when we return. Hey, the Roadman, Kenny Rhoda here for Northfield Park, our title sponsor of the Red Guy and Rhoda podcast. And Northfield Park is your home for live and simulcast racing. Catch the excitement of live harness racing at Northfield Park. However, they want us to pass this along to you. Beginning August 16th, the track is going to be closed for live racing from August 16th through August 26th. Now, live racing is scheduled to return Saturday, August 27th. But full card simulcast racing will continue each day at Northfield Park starting at noon.
What's good, everybody? My name is Taylor Vanderbilt, and I'm the host of the 440 College Basketball Podcast here on the Press Play Podcast Network. On the 440, we talk about literally everything college basketball related. It could be women's, it could be men's, it could be recruiting, it could be the tournament. It does not matter. We cover it all. So check it out. Again, it's the 440 College Basketball Podcast here on the Press Play Podcast Network.
Looking for new insights on the Cleveland sports scene with a unique side of Cleveland sports history? Then you found the perfect podcast. I'm John Sable.
And I'm Scott Sable, and we're hosts of the Sable Brothers on the Baseline podcast, a podcast about Cleveland sports, but not your typical podcast about the land's sports teams. Join us as we embark on a journey of sharing a unique and historical side of Cleveland sports history with the help of some former Cleveland sports stars and other historical figures.
All right here on the Sable Brothers on the Baseline podcast, part of the Press Play Podcast Network.
What's up, everyone? Chase Smith here, host of the Chase Smith Podcast, and my podcast reflects who I am. My hobbies, my interests, my passions, my curiosities, my careers, my questions, and my family. I'll spend time talking about all types of sports, movies, TV shows, trending news stories, and other cultural events, and even faith. This is who I am, and I hope I can get to know you as well. Join me on the Chase Smith Podcast, and let's have some thought-provoking conversations, only on the Press Play Podcast Network.
For the Dennis Maniloff Show, I'll tap into my 40-plus years of following Cleveland sports and 30-plus years of writing and talking about them, so as to bring you informed opinions and analysis of your favorite players and teams. I also will monitor the national sports scene and, when warranted, step out of the toy department and into the real world. And I'll always be on the lookout for special guests. By all means, join us.
Hey everyone, this is Mike Voorhees.
And I'm Brian Shaw. No, not the pitcher. We're the Guardians of the Land MLB podcast, formerly a Swing and a Try.
Don't have time to watch 162 games of baseball? We do. We have you covered with recaps of the games, stats, and analysis throughout the MLB season.
Subscribe now to Guardians of the Land and Press Play Pods for all your Cleveland sports analysis.
And welcome back to the Red Guy and Rhoda podcast, brought to you by MGM Northfield Park here on the Press Play Podcast Network. The roadman Kenny Rhoda flying solo today, Michael Red Guy off, and outstanding producer Jordan Powell making sure we're coming to you strong, as Michael Red Guy would say, here on this edition of the R&R podcast. Enough Browns talk for right now. Let's give some love to your first place Cleveland Guardians. I'm not a big fan of the song, but I guess you got to sing it a little bit. We are all Cleveland Guardians. Tom Hanks, thank you very much. We give him much love on the Kenny and JT show. Hey, I picked them to win 75 games. They've already won 62 with 46 left, right? They're in first place, 2 games in front of Minnesota and Chicago. So kudos to Tito Francona, the youngest roster in all of Major League Baseball, the 4th lowest payroll in all of Major League Baseball. And here they are on August 16th, the taping of this podcast, in first place ahead of the White Sox, who were picked to win the division, and the Twins, who've been in first place for most of this season. So the young guns, Ahmed Rosario, Andres Jimenez, Stephen Kwan, and all the other 13, 14 different guys who have made their major league debut this year and got their first hit or their first strikeout as a pitcher, whatever it is. These kids are playing their asses off. They don't know any better. They're too young and too dumb to know that they shouldn't be in this thing right now. And Jose Ramirez has been the one constant throughout the entire year, closing in on 100 RBIs, 20-some home runs, I think. He's going to maybe get 30, go 30 and 120 stolen bases again, be in the running for MVP. Josh Naylor's had a nice season coming off that horrific injury from a year ago. The catching still sucks, but it is what it is for this year. But they're identifying players for the future while still contending this year. And I do have to say this. I think the reason they're contending is they play in the worst division in baseball, right? Tigers and Royals, that's 38 games. White Sox have been disappointing this year. So 3 teams in the division, 30, that's, do the math, carry the one, 57 games. You've been able to get fat maybe against some of those teams. Like the last 6 games of the regular, if the Guardians are leading or close to leading down the stretch, they close at home with 6 games against the Kansas City Royals. Think about that. One of the worst teams in baseball. I haven't looked at the records. Maybe the worst team in baseball. That's who they finished at home. Guardians, Royals, last 6 games at home, if it comes down to that, to win the AL Central. Very possible. In fact, they play their last 9 games at home. It's either Tampa Bay, I think, or Texas to close it out along with the Royals. Whatever it is, it's the last 9 games at home. Shane Bieber's found his game. Tristan McKenzie's been solid all year. Cal Quantrell's been steady. Zach Plesac, as of the taping of this, on his way to his 10th loss, possibly 2-10, maybe on the year. He's been a major disappointment. The bullpen, Emmanuel Clase, the closer, one of the best in baseball. James Karinchak, after an injury filled season is rebounded. So this team, man, give them credit. They never give up. They fight to the end. Terry Francona with the Midas touch. The other day he batted Andres Jimenez fourth. He put him in the cleanup spot. And all Jimenez did was in the bottom of the seventh inning hit a 3-run homer that won the game for him, basically. So Tito pushing the right buttons, playing the kids, and they're getting a look at a lot of these. Owen Miller getting a look-see. Freeman getting a look-see, as well as Quan, who's emerged and has been in the lineup every day, and deservedly so. So this Guardians baseball team, they've exceeded my regardless of what happens from this point forward. Now, I don't want them to collapse. That'll be a disappointment. They've got as good a shot as anybody in this division to win this division because of their 3 starters who have been consistent, right? Bieber, McKenzie, Quantrill. The back end of the bullpen, Karinchak and Clase. Jose Ramirez and Naylor, the veterans carrying the offense. Rosario and Jimenez emerging in the offense. And a guy like Quan coming out of nowhere. And who knows? Oscar Gonzalez, too. Who knows who else might chip in down the stretch. So nobody's been harder on them. And it still pisses me off that if the Dolans just would have spent maybe another $20 or $25 million on a couple of players, like a real big league catcher and a real big league outfielder at one of the corner spots, right? Maybe they'd be running away with the division. But they went into this wanting to get a look at a lot of the young guys. They're getting a look and they're still in it. So they're happy with what's happening and they'll tell you that. And however it plays out, they'll take the results. So let's hope they're able to hold on and make the playoffs and get into that. Let's see. The Astros and Yankees are probably going to have the 2 best records in the American League. So they'll get a bye in the first round of the playoffs. So that means the AL Central will be the worst division in the American League. So they will play one of the wild card teams in a 3-game series, but all 3 games would be in Cleveland if they end up as the AL Central champ, right? So that's good news. That's good experience for the young kids. Let's hope that happens. Let's hope they hold on. They can win the division and get that playoff experience. That'd be fantastic. Kudos to the Guardians, Chris Antonetti, Mike Chernoff, and Terry Francona for a job well done to this point. So fingers crossed. I'll be watching more Guardians games, listening to Hammy and Rosie on WHBC, calling the games and hoping they do have an October to remember, as Hammy likes to say, especially for the kids. And before we get out of here on this shortened edition of the Red Guy and Rhoda podcast, as we fly solo today with Michael off, before you know it, folks, another young team. Think about that, right? Young Guardians, even a lot of young players on the Browns, and the young Cavaliers will be back at it before you know it. Training camp, September 27th. According to Chris Fedor, Cavs beat reporter for Cleveland.com, Cavaliers reportedly will open up the season on the road October 19th at Toronto to begin the 2022-23 season. I cannot wait. Basketball is my first love. Michael and I both. We love the round ball, man. Evan Mobley, year number 2. Darius Garland coming off an all-star season. Colin Sexton still with the team, surprisingly. How's that going to fit in? Ochai Agbaji, the rookie from Kansas. I mean, this is going to be a fun year, and I'll be disappointed. I'll say it right now. Forget the play-in crap. I'm expecting them to be one of the top 6 teams and make the playoffs this year, and that would be the first time, if it happens. I know I'm putting the cart ahead of the horse. The first time since 1998 that they would make the playoffs without LeBron James on the team. So let's hope that that's the case, but that's going to be here before you know it. So 3 young teams in Cleveland you should be excited to watch. As soon as we find out what's up with Deshaun Watson, the Browns on paper have an outstanding roster and a chance in the Central Division. My goodness, Ken. That was 1989. You know why I had that on my mind? The last time the Browns won a division was the Central Division in 1989. They have never won the AFC North since it changed over to the AFC North. They've never been crowned champions of the AFC North. Bernie and the Browns, 1989 AFC Central champs. That's why I said. But the Browns challenging in the North this year, Guardians right now in first place in the AL Central. And you've got the Cavaliers battling they're in the Central Division too, right? Geez, Central North. So we'll see how things play out, but it should be an exciting year for all of you Cleveland sports fans with your three major sports teams. And let's not forget the Buckeyes this year too. It's championship or bust. They open up September 3rd at home against the Crying Irish of Notre Dame. That's number 2 Ohio State versus number 5 Notre Dame in both polls, preseason polls to start the season. There are two teams I hate the most in college football. Crying Irish of Notre Dame and that team up north. And the Buckeyes regular season opens with the Crying Irish and closes with that team up north. I can't think of a better way to start and end a perfect regular season than to beat Notre Dame in Michigan and head to the Big Ten championship game and hopefully play for a national championship this year as well. So exciting news there for the Ohio State Buckeyes and all the fans. And we'll be keeping you posted on that as well as my Cleveland Monsters. Love my hockey. Got to give a shout out to my guys on the ice, the Cleveland Monsters. All right, that's it. That's going to do it for this edition of the Red Guy and Rhoda podcast brought to you by MGM Northfield Park. Thanks to Jordan Powell for producing this. Michael, enjoy your time off, and we'll get back together the next time we put out the Red Guy and Rhoda podcast here on the Press Play Podcast Network. See you. Bye.